Welcome to the Sisters in Service podcast. My name is Kat Corchado. I'm a fellow Air Force veteran who, after 20 years of active duty, struggled with transition after leaving service. The Sisters in Service podcast is a platform to include all women veterans, organizations, military spouses, and Blue Star, Gold Star families in talking about the trials and triumphs we face while in service and after service. I want to take a moment to thank all of you who have taken the time to listen and follow me on my journey. My podcast is every Tuesday, and I hope you will tune in. Until then, please be safe, take care of each other, and until next time. Welcome to another episode of Sisters in Service. I am your host, Kat Corchado, and my guest today is Rosa Mcfadden. Now, she is a powerhouse in the entrepreneurial area, the 501c3 area. You name it, she's pretty much doing it. She's a busy woman, and I thought it was just fascinating, all the things that she's doing, and I asked her to become a guest, and she said yes. So hi, Rose. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Now, I understand that you are an Army veteran, and I always ask my veterans this question. Did you pick the Army, or did the Army pick you?
I would say I picked the Army.
Was it a conscious choice, or did you just go eeny, meeny, miny, mo?
It was eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I actually just walked into the Army door. The Marine Corps door was wide open too, but it just was second in line.
Wow. Now, I understand that you are the first female in your immediate family, or maybe in your family in general, to go into the military. So how did your mom and dad feel about that?
My dad was in the Marine Corps, and so it wasn't something they necessarily thought any of their children would enter into, much less their daughter. I was in college at the time, and I was finishing my first semester, and I just decided school is not for me right now. Like maybe in the future, but not right now. It's not for me. I always had interest in the military growing up, and I went in to ask some questions about what the lifestyle would be like, the expectations, and I committed right away, and I was scheduled to leave for basic training 2 weeks after semester ended. I called my parents up and I let them know. And the next morning, they must have traveled a 8 or 9 hour drive, and they were knocking at my dorm room. And, they had it in their mind to change my mind. And I had to let them know that I fully committed, Dad. I fully committed. And he's like, but you have to go through this process. I said, yes, Dad, I did go through the whole process. I leave for basic training in 2 weeks. And to be honest, just like anyone else, that if you're very young, you're 17 and a half, you're getting ready to turn 18, that is your first adult decision, or your first big job that could take you across the world. And they were sad, but they also were excited at the same time that they raised a young girl that is now an adult and made her first decision, and they were very supportive ever since.
That's a big adult decision, I think. Now, you said your dad was a Marine. Was he one of those scary Marine dads, where you feel like you had to sit up when he walked by?
Oh, yes. And to this day, you arch your back up just a little more, you, yes, sir, no, ma'am, type thing. And I don't know, if it's just something about the Marines. His voice is very deep, very, he enunciated his words very clearly. If you get the wrong pitch, you turn around very slowly. He was, yes, he was that dad.
Wow. Now, you come from a long line of veterans, and all the way back, is it World War II?
Yes.
So
Yes.
give us a little
Actually,
background on your lineage.
So I am Navajo. I am full Navajo. I am from Window Rock, Arizona, which is the heart of the Navajo Nation. And I grew up on the reservation, or what I like to refer as Navajo land. And all of our family members, all of the guys, they either volunteered to join the military, or they were involuntary. So with all of them, they lived up into their 90s, all of them, and they served in every war. They got injured, they came home, they did what they needed to do for their families. And during those times, you would come home, spend a period of time with family, and you were right back to work and right back out there. So they do have multiple injuries that they sustained throughout all the different deployments that they were on, and they're all Purple Heart recipients as well, multiple actually. But they're just strong men. They're just warriors. The warrior spirit in them was not anything different than what our people have endured over time, and how we fought to defend our families and our people and our lands. And then, we're serving a country on that same capacity. So, I think it is a natural thing for the family that I come from and the way that we view things.
Now, you said that a lot of your family who served were Purple Heart recipients, but so were you. So how did that feel to know that not only were you the first female in your family to serve, but you're also the first female in your family to be a Purple Heart recipient?
I can't say that I really think about that very much. What I do view having a Purple Heart as is being blessed, because I came home alive. You sustain some injuries, but you're alive. Some of our friends, they didn't come home. They died there. And so, for us, and just like my grandfathers, a lot of the conversations I used to have with them growing up about their service, when they would sometimes dust off their uniform, they would share a little bit of their about what happened to them, because it obviously was very traumatic every time they got injured, and how many of their friends that passed and didn't come home. But for me, I just felt very very blessed to be alive. Although you sustain injuries, you're in and out of the hospital, you're still able to find a new purpose and live your life. So for me, I just think it's not just an honor to be alive, but we also share that honor and continue our service on other capacities.
Absolutely. I was born into the military, into the Air Force, and my dad was one that went to Vietnam, but when he came back, he never really talked about it. And so I was interested in knowing, because so many people in your family had served, if you guys kind of, I won't say compare notes, but did your grandfathers ever talk about it? So I'm sure they mentioned stuff here and there, but never really got into detail about it, right?
No, they never got into detail about it. To be honest, like, one of my grandfathers I was extremely close to, and we would talk about it, because I had came back from my first deployment, and he was the only person I wanted to talk to. And I took him to dinner, and I just told him, I was like, Che. So Che means your mother's father in Navajo. And I had asked him, I said, Che, like, did this happen? I want to know what I'm feeling. Can you pray for me? And I felt like, as I was telling him what my experience was from the first deployment, the second deployment, the first time you get shot at, the first time you get attacked, just that initial feeling that you have. I did talk with him about turning switches on and off. He did understand that. For all the people listening, what that means is you do have a flight or fight natural instinct, and a lot of times for us through training, especially if you're in a combat zone, you do have to turn off your emotions so that you can operate, because if you can't do that, you are a liability and you could be the cause of hurting your battle buddy to the left, the right, in front of you, or behind you. And so, I asked him, like, how do you turn that off? And he just said, you have to wait until you finish. If you want to do this for the rest of your life, then you're going to have to work like that. But if you do want to finish and have a family and be a mother, we'll cross that bridge when you get to it.
Well, from one veteran to another, I never had to deploy, although I did support Desert Storm while I was in. Thank you for wearing the uniform, because I know that many people actually did deploy and I didn't. It doesn't diminish my service, but I actually understand, the sacrifice that happened. And so you come back home, do you make the decision to get out of the military at that point?
No, not necessarily. I was injured my second deployment. And although I had plans to stay in the military and really make a career out of it, for that purpose, I felt that it really matched my personality at the time, and just the type of person I was and the way that I carried myself. And I enjoyed traveling and, wearing a uniform, the day-to-day routine training. I actually really gravitated toward that. But through injury, I had a traumatic brain injury, cervical spine injury. I couldn't walk. I actually, when I did get injured, the amount of impact it had on my head and my body, I experienced retrograde amnesia once I was awake. And it was I would say, like, I'm not sure if the word traumatizing is a good enough word. It was more of an outside body experience, because I woke up, I didn't know where I was at. I didn't know who I was. They asked me what my name was, and I started, I got a little emotional because I couldn't answer the question. And I realized how weird of an injury all of that was in that moment. And it wasn't until later, I would say about 2.5 or 3 weeks later, when I transferred into different hospitals, that you meet other people that were likely injured in the same location or in nearby bases. And in Iraq, that's where I was at, in downtown Baghdad. So I met other individuals that had like some similar injuries in the traumatic brain injury unit, because there was a lot of us there, and they also woke up that way. We did have a lot of the same injuries and symptoms, and it just was a very, very interesting experience looking back at that having had happened in 2004. That's a really long time ago, but it doesn't feel that long for me, because every time I go through an episode, which I just came out of a very ugly, bad back episode. I didn't end up in the hospital this time, but a month and a half ago, it just, you're reminded again why you have these injuries and everything. So
Absolutely.
it's a constant reminder, but because of my faith and my husband, we talk about it, we pray about it. And we thank God that we're alive, we're here. We get to have our daughter, our little crazy toddler driving us crazy, running around. And how would we not have this if God didn't bring us back home?
Absolutely. It's easy to say, oh, what if my life had gone in this direction? People always ask me, when I look back, do you have any regrets, or would you choose to be something different? And I said, no, because everything that I've done has gotten me to this point. And so
Yeah.
I'm starting to really like who I am as a person. And so that's a lot you got to work on yourself, not only, your body, your mind, but, just knowing that you get to a point where you're like, you know what, I'm okay the way I am. And it's okay. How long did it take you to feel normal again?
Gosh, I think the word normal it's a hard it's a hard standard to live by. If you ever get injured, and for anybody out there, your injury doesn't necessarily have to come from military service. It could be a car accident. It could be a motorcycle accident. It could be, somebody hits you on the road. It really could be anything, but it's definitely life altering. And we do step into what is not necessarily our new normal, but just reality, just how our lives were going to happen. And God only knows. He does give us some opportunities. He does give us the right people, the right doctors, the right medical team. And I feel like just feeling like that and being reminded of that by my parents, they were extremely helpful. They were very patient with me when I feel like they shouldn't have been patient with me. I had experienced so much distress in terms of, I would say, in terms of complete frustration, accepting that you have a disability physically that would keep you from doing a lot of the things that you mentally thought you could do. I did appreciate that I still remain very strong mentally, and that you could still make some goals for yourself that weren't based off your disability. And just having my parents, my family reminding me that, take your time. You don't have to make goals right away. We are not going to tell you what to do, but your health is the most important. We'll take you to all your doctor appointments. We won't ask you about them unless you want to share. I just feel like, coming from a military family, it's almost as if they did know how to handle it. So I really actually appreciated that a lot.
Yeah, that's to have that support in your corner, I think was important to you, but I
Mm-hmm.
think it was important to them too, to be that sense of support for you, but still allowing you to walk that walk, knowing that they were there if you needed them. So when you come out of the military, what was that transition like for you? Or was it a transition for you?
It's really sad because it wasn't really a transition. And maybe other people can attest to this, because life doesn't stop back at home, right? Life still is happening for your mom, your dad, your family, your friends. And you still leave your situation and you bring any kind of things that are from your situation. In my case, it was a lot of injury. And I went back home, and, my parents were in the middle of moving. They moved from one location. They were starting a new position, a new job. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I started working and I worked at a hospital, and I didn't start school right away. And I spent a whole year with my mom, getting to know her, her getting to know me. She took me to all my doctor appointments. We had fun. And I think it might have been about a year of doing that, spending time with family. And my mom and my sister and her son, they were in a car accident and she died instantly.
Oh my goodness.
And so,
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. And you step into a different kind of situation where that same thing that we talked about before of turning switches on and off, I immediately found myself in that position of turning the switch off of emotions, because you do have to in cases like that or any other ones, you still have to take a leadership position.
Yes.
Regardless of your whatever you're going through. You still, as a daughter, especially if it's for your parent, you have to you have to be there for everybody.
Yes.
And although I may have been like the most physical weakest at the time of in and out of appointments,
you were the mentally stronger.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't think I would have been able to be that person for my family and carry my family. My sister and her son, they had multiple injuries themselves, and taking them to and from doctor's appointments, planning a funeral, being there for my dad, and my mom's family. It was very I can see the nature of the training in the military. Mm-hmm. They help you, at least in this sense, set up for what you expect and how to handle death as it happens. Whether you're a first responder or anything of that nature. And in that moment, I actually was a first responder in that accident. So I did see my mom, and I did know that she was no longer alive. I just, I think that if I stayed in the military and I didn't get injured, I wouldn't have got to spend that time with my mom. True. Because we don't know, what God's plan is for any one of us. Right. But the timing was perfect. The time I got to spend with her was perfect. I carry it, up until this age, and I get to teach my daughter about my mom. So in that perspective, the transition shifted to a different type of purpose. And I just continued. That's when I did start school. That at that point I started school and I worked full time and, did everything I could for my family for the next few years.
I find that the military is, like, I agree with you in helping you assess a situation and react accordingly. And yes. As a single parent in the military, and I had a son who was accident prone, like you could not imagine. And he would come in and his leg would be bleeding, and and inside I'm going, holy crap. And on the outside, I'm like, okay, let's go take care of this. So I'm one of those people that in an emergency situation, I'm great. And then I'll go in the room and cry.
Yes.
I'm one of those people.
I don't go in the room, but I do get in my car and I leave and I drive and I cry. And I don't cry in front of people, but when I do cry and have to take my time away and be in prayer and pull myself together. And, you come back to the same situation, obviously. Mm-hmm. And you make a good decision of, like, on the drive home, I'm like, okay, whew, right. Okay, here we go.
Clear the air.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's do this again until, 2 weeks later when your head's underwater and you do it again. I found that healthy for me as far as the drives. I found the beach during that time and came to San Diego a lot. I live in San Diego now, and this is one of the reasons why I'm here. I had a lot of healing on these beaches, just alone, and really just thinking about life, purpose, what God really had in front of me. And here we are. We live here. We serve here. We serve the city here on different capacities. And it really comes full circle.
When did you decide to become an entrepreneur? Because you've got several businesses. You've got the Peterhunt recruiting with your husband. You have your Isabella Rose Design, which is jewelry. And then you have your 501c3 We Luv San Diego. So how did they all come together? Or was it you did one and then there was an opportunity to do something else? And was it kind of a flow? Did you know that this was all happening at the same time?
Oh, no. And just like anyone, you do start something and then God gives you a little push and says, okay, you've got that experience and now you're going to be ready for this. And you step right into it. And it doesn't feel like you're taking on a lot, but right. In the scheme of things, if you're sharing what you do with people, you start making the list and you're like, oh, when do I sleep? That's a good question. When do I sleep?
Who needs sleep?
Yeah, And so, no, in 2015, my husband at that time, he had been a recruiter for about 12 years. And just in that the recruiting world, a lot of people decide if they're going to stay with that firm or if they're going to launch out and do something on their own. Back then, I was working with housing homeless veterans here in San Diego, and I had finished my master's in business. I have a master's in business with an emphasis in healthcare management because I wanted to be a CEO and run a hospital. And, I really, really wanted to do that. And it just happened where with your spouse, you guys dream together, you make goals, and this was one of his goals. And I said, let's do it. It started with just him. I was not a recruiter. He really tried to teach me, and I said, no, I am not called to do this. I cannot do this. And, and I'm glad I'm like that too, because you stay in your lane. Yes. and you do what you're most capable of doing.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. So we started that in 2015. Right now we're I would say we're very successful. We have incredible employees. We're nationwide, and it's grown to a point where I don't have to do as much as I used to. And that allows you to do other things like, the jewelry company. I just started designing in 2020. I'm a crafter at heart. I'm an artist at heart. I've done so many different things, weaving, silversmith, anything art related. That's kind of just our culture. And I really, really just fell in love with polymer clay, a lot of the precious metals, natural stonework, mixed media jewelry. And I felt like even during this time, as I start experiencing more of back injury episodes, major headaches that are always, I'm going to live with, experiencing more of those episodes. This has actually been extremely therapeutic for me during this season. I've partnered with other friends that are veterans, and we get to work together and do business together. I grew out my team, so I have photographers and models here in San Diego and in Houston. And we have our designs and collections just across the country at different brick and mortar companies. I get to be a designer for polymer clay TV, which is the whole, which is the main, I would say like the main source of how to make these kind of pieces of jewelry. So I just see God's hand over even that. I would say a lot of designers in that field, it would take them likely longer if you would, be invited to be on a design team or have a teaching platform with a place like Polymer Clay TV, where you get to teach and pour into other people's businesses and their skill sets.
So you just have all kinds of things happening. I love it. And I also love the fact that your daughter actually helps you with your designs, right? Or maybe the making of the jewelry or something.
She gets into everything. She is going to be 3 years old. I've started teaching her how to do things with her hands. I let her pick colors. I let her pick some components, and then I show her how to put it together. The shop is named Isabella Rose, and that is after my daughter. I think it's important that, we give our kids the tools that they need to succeed.
Absolutely.
And we also give them a good expectation, nothing that is too far above their head, but definitely within their reach. And I want her to use her hands. Don't be afraid to be creative. Don't be afraid to step out. And if you want to start a business, girl, you better start that business. Mommy will be your first investment. So
that's the best way to do it. When kids see their parents doing it, then they're more inclined to think, wow, maybe not the same business. Maybe it is the same business, but to get them thinking along that entrepreneurial path rather than just, I'm not going to say W-2 is bad. I'm not going to say that. But, if you're not a W-2 kind of person, and I'm not sure I ever was, although I don't know how I did 20 years in the service. But anyway, that's a whole other story. So my question is, do you think that military veterans are not better suited, that they have those tools to get them through that entrepreneurship where they have that, they stick to something and they make sure that they learn what they need to learn to get it off the ground? Do you think that they're more apt to be entrepreneurs, or do you think it just depends on the person?
I think it's both. I think that if there was anything that they were lacking in the entrepreneurial skill set, that they should have learned that in the military. The discipline, the chain of command, the actual structure for how a business works, strategy, why we do things, having a mission and sticking to it until it's complete. Or the life cycle of products. In the military, we're using products. And of course, we use some really old vehicles and keep it for a long time.
Yes.
And you just keep maintaining those things over and over and over. But you do learn a lot of important concepts about the materials that we use in the military, taking care of it, the maintenance of it, the longevity that you can have with your product use. And so I think every single veteran, they have the perfect opportunity to start a business. A lot of times it just takes inspiration. You have to pay attention to it. You also need to put down some bad habits as well. We pick those bad habits up along the way, and those things are always going to interfere with your potential and even starting a business. There are so many resources out there right now too to help veterans start a business. So you don't have to necessarily go out and get a big loan,
right.
But you can get people that want to partner with you and want to pour into your startup. So I think every single veteran is a really good position to start a business.
Absolutely.
And I'm all for you guys.
Yeah, we're all in your corner. I think one of the smartest things that I've heard, which I wish that I had done this myself, but while they're still active duty, they're being an entrepreneur. So that when they get out, their business is already off the ground. It's not like I have to start over again. So I'm kind of mad at myself that I didn't think about that, but that's neither here nor there. So from all your businesses, everything that you're doing, and also being a mom, you are also the vice president of the Native American Women Warriors.
Yes, I am. I actually started with them in 2015 as well. Mm-hmm.
What is their mission?
Our mission is to make sure that all of our Native American sisters, whether they're veterans or active duty, get the recognition that they deserve. We are such a very small population in the military, especially active right now. And just having served over time, and we just want to make sure that all of our women not only have a sisterhood or camaraderie group, but we're able to connect on our same cultural level. We're all related. We're all sisters, regardless of what tribes we come from. Absolutely. Or what branch that we served in. I feel blessed. Again, it goes back to coming home and coming home alive, a little messed up, a little limp, a little, little here and there. You got some issues, some flaws, some extra flaws you came home with. But I'm in their corner. They were there with me. Some friends right now, I'm helping them with their business startups. I love doing their website design, their graphics, like anything that they need when I have time.
I'm not sure when that
advice
is, though.
And all the good stuff. I do make time for some of those things on purpose because they need it. We went to war. We went to war together. They literally had my back, and it might be, many years later, but this is still their dream. I remember having conversations with them in the tent when it was like 115 degrees in the morning, and we're just trying to, get by and have some conversation. Anything that would make us not feel like, okay, it's 115 now. It's supposed to be 125. Like, let's try to talk about something different. And these are some of the conversations we had, what we're going to do when we get home.
Oh, yeah. Those are some good conversations. One last question for you. What is the percentage of Native American women who are serving versus those who are veteran?
I believe that right now, the active duty, I believe it's like 2%. I believe that's what it is. I know overall with all the women in the military right now, I believe that is either between 16 and 17% around there. A lot of our women are in the military. And as far as the veterans right now, I wish we could find each other more. I wish we could have a platform where, we're able to have realistic data of who accessed their benefits, who hasn't, so that there's actually a real target for who we're going to go out and help. Too many of Native American sisters right now, they served and they could, for a lot of reasons, not be doing very well. Perhaps like they moved to a different location, or there wasn't opportunity there or anything like that. They didn't have a support system. I do feel like extremely, extremely blessed with the family that I had and the kind of support I had. Had I been in a different position, I might be experiencing homelessness right now. So I never take anything that I have for granted right now, because I do have friends that I served with that do experience homelessness. So, we never know what could happen to us. And that is one of our goals with the organization. And really just for me and all the work I do here for veterans anyway, by myself, is to make sure that, we come along a veteran, even if we just help one. We help
Right.
one veteran, we've done our job, and we've continued our service.
I believe that no one should be homeless, but especially veterans. Veterans should not be homeless. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Rose, thank you so much for being a part of our podcast today. Where can people find you if they want to be a part of your 501c3 We Luv San Diego, or they want to buy your jewelry? Where can we find your jewelry?
So you can find our jewelry. If you want to follow us, you can find us on Instagram at isabellarose.co. And for We Luv San Diego, if you're in this area out here, we serve in the areas of hunger, and we push out about 50,000 pounds of food, around 40,000 diapers into the communities for families that need it, especially during this post-COVID time. A lot of families are absolutely in need, and we want to be there to serve them. You can partner with us, or you can volunteer. Either way, connect with us.
Yeah. You're doing so much, Rose, and all of it is so needed. And I just want to say, even though we both wore the uniform, thank you for wearing the uniform and going through what you did. And for all my sisters in service, please stay safe. Take care of each other. Until next time, and it's never too late to start your impossible.